Peter Klein's wardrobe for the Standard is provided by Samtani & Son Tailors in Langley. Men's and women's tailoring. Samtani & Son. Fitted for you, fitted right.
Welcome back. Guitarist Pat Metheny is known for constantly reinventing his definition of jazz and embracing new challenges. Before his work with the Orchestrion, his style varied from jazz to Latin and even movie soundtracks. And he's constantly evolving the technology behind his guitars. You played an instrument in Vancouver, a 42-string, you call it a Picasso?
The maker of the instrument calls it the Picasso. Linda Manzer, who's Canadian.
Canadian, yep. Right. So explain that instrument and how you came up with this. I guess did you come up with the idea and commission her to do this?
Well, I came up with it in the sense that I said to her, you know, I really would love to have an instrument that had the possibility of having several different harmonic areas available that I could get to, and kind of drew a sketch, and she did the work. I mean, you know, I didn't have anything really to do with the actual brain power required to make that happen.
But I mean, just playing that, I imagine, took a new level of skill.
Well, and it's an evolving set of skills, you know. I mean, for me, just speaking about jazz and these things that sort of stand apart from, let's say, what was happening in jazz 40 years ago. This is where I'm a little bit different, I guess, in the sense that to me, the jazz tradition mandates that you change. The idea that, you know, that you could pretend to live in another era is one that I have never seen an example of. I don't hear anybody playing in a previous style successfully. I mean, it doesn't sound bad. You don't run from the room screaming, and it sort of sounds okay, you know. But when I hear somebody trying to play like Miles, it makes me want to hear Miles. If I see somebody or hear somebody writing a chart that sounds like Duke Ellington, it makes me want to hear Duke Ellington. My feeling is our job is to reinvent things, because there's something that happens when a musician bumps up against the unknown that is unique. And that, to me, is what jazz has been at its best throughout its history. Jazz is very unforgiving and is the opposite of nostalgia to me. Jazz does not accept somebody standing on the shoulders of previous greats and saying, this is it, because it's not. So for me, I work hard to put myself in situations where I have no idea what I'm doing. And if that means another instrument, if that means some kind of harmonic zone that is undefined for me, that's where I want to be. And particularly the guitar in jazz is an instrument that is so open-ended because it has never really been defined. You know, we don't have a Charlie Parker, we don't have a John Coltrane on the guitar.
We have Wes Montgomery.
We have Wes Montgomery.
He was someone you really admired.
And
when you were young, you sort of tried to emulate him.
Absolutely. And, you know, luckily I was around older musicians who, at that time, this would be the late 60s, early 70s, rather than going, wow, you sound like Wes Montgomery, that's great, would kind of like give me the freeze a little bit. Like, how come you're not coming up with your own thing? Somewhere around 1980, all of a sudden it was okay to sound like other people. And up to that time, that was not cool in jazz. So in a way, I'm pretty old school, like in that I realized I loved Wes Montgomery so much that when I tried to play like him, actually it's kind of disrespectful to him. What I learned from Wes was he found his own way to play. He invented his own sound. He invented his own conception of music. And that actually inspires me more than anything else.
Well, let's go back to the beginning when you first picked up the guitar. I had read that your parents weren't really supportive of guitar in your home, right?
That's true. For some reason, my folks who had a very trumpet-oriented background. My dad is an excellent trumpet player. My grandfather, my mom's father, the owner of the Player piano in question, was a professional trumpet player his whole life.
Your brother is a trumpet
And my
player.
older brother, Mike, is a great trumpet player. And I started on trumpet myself when I was about 8. And somehow the guitar for them, you know, and also you kind of have to figure the chronological timing of this. You know, I was born in 1954. I kind of got interested in the guitar in 1963, around the time of the Beatles. The guitar sort of did represent this iconic shift in the universe somehow, which I think I responded to as a, you know, 8-year-old or 9-year-old.
Sure.
And to my parents, I suppose that was a little scary.
But the Beatles, you mentioned the Beatles. I mean, they were a real influence on you, which I think might be surprising to people who know your music, because you don't have drums, you don't have vocals. I mean, you're so different than the Beatles in many ways.
Well, I think that the creativity represented by the Beatles is something that is such a fantastic example of people using the materials available to them in a sort of infinitely varied way that it connects to jazz to me somehow. That's what I think about jazz guys is doing, you know.
And they moved the medium forward.
They moved the medium forward. They reinvented the medium several times along the way.
You mentioned before Miles Davis. Miles Davis was also...
Miles was probably the main thing for me. You know, it's true that I was interested in the guitar and the Beatles and all that, but my brother Mike brought home a Miles record called 4 and More when I was about 11. And I always hear this rap, oh, jazz is something you have to get a little bit of a taste for and you have to learn to appreciate it. That may be true for other people, but for me, like 30 seconds into the needle drop on, you know, the first tune of 4 and More, it was like somebody hit me over the head with a baseball bat. And, you know, I just wanted to know, and I still want to know, what is that? What is that? And the whole idea of people improvising and the whole idea of being so kind of involved in the sort of microsecond by microsecond way of living that jazz guys sort of specialize in is monumentally exciting to me. I had just finished faking my way through high school, basically, because I was working nonstop as a junior high student and then a high school student, and really was pretty close to being illiterate, to tell you the truth, because I never studied. I just practiced, like, you know, constantly.